I'm pumped to have you today. So I'm taking you guys a little bit about Monica. So Monica's been in business for herself like literally a few minutes, right? So Monica, how long you been an entrepreneur now?
Open business wise for a little over a year now, but working my way into, running my own office for almost 3 years now.
Right. And so can you tell us just a little bit about background, like family, where are you from? Obviously, and you're the ripe age of 23 years old as an entrepreneur, which is 25. I
25.
thought 23,
Yeah.
25 now. So you started when you were 22, 23.
23 when I started.
That's awesome. Tell me tell me about life. Tell me about life before, you got into, your career path and the business, and tell me about school and all those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, I was the youngest child out of three, so I had an older brother and an older sister, and two very loving parents who, really cared about me. They taught me like the importance of, hard work and a good work ethic. Having three kids, and you kind of have to work pretty hard. So I watched both of my parents growing up work super hard at their jobs just to, support us. I was always encouraged to play every single sport that I wanted to, so I pretty much dabbled in everything from soccer, volleyball, cross country. I even did karate for a while. I did every type of dance that you could think of, really into art throughout all of high school. So I guess you could say, I was a pretty well-rounded kid. I was always taught to from a very young age that, money is earned, it is not given. So as soon as I was able to, my first job, I actually had a paper route when I was in third grade. I took as many streets.
Nice.
Yeah, I always like to joke that that was my first sales position because it kind of is. I took as many streets on as I possibly could. And I kind of learned about the law of averages back when I was a kid because I knew if I only did one lap around my street, I was less likely to get more money. So if I did two laps and I knocked on the doors that didn't answer the first time, I could sometimes double the amount of money that I made that month. So I always joke that was my first experience. But after high school, I had high school jobs, serving. Into college, I had bartending experience. And from there, and NKU is where I graduated from. When I started within the business, I was actually
And NKU, Northern Kentucky.
Yes, NKU, their College of Business is really good. And also, it's like right in my backyard from where I lived at the time. So for me, I was still working full time while, when I first started in the business, right? I got laid off due to COVID. So I just decided I was going to do something that was more geared towards, what my degree was in. So I started working with Corey Capone when I had 2 semesters left. I was about to graduate. I don't suggest doing full-time work and full-time school. It was pretty difficult, but for me, I learned a lot about time management, also a lot about myself, how to manage stress, and I think it made me a better, leader for my guys later on down the road because a lot of them were in school too, and I taught them tips and tricks on how they could better manage their time. As I got good at that, and I, got promoted once I graduated from college. About 6 months after that, I got promoted into assistant management. And the rest is history. I kind of grew from there and started, keep continuing to build my team and now build my office. So, working hard now so that, one day I'm in your place, just as successful.
Well, I appreciate that. The really neat thing about your story is, when you're new into business, I remember being 22, 23 years old, get my foot in the door, and maybe I wasn't as confident as I am now, and I was a little more confident in sports than I was in business because coming into the real world is just a little different than school, right? Like, how did you handle that transition from being in college, going to class? Obviously, you worked with the office in Cincinnati, kind of part-time in a way, or full-time, sorry, with full-time classes. But how did you make that transition into being dressed in a nice suit every day and wearing heels probably every day? That's just like, I know for me, like putting on a tie was just so uncomfortable. How did you deal with that?
I think one thing that really helped me was you want to dress for the part that you want, right? So I didn't want anybody coming in and being like, oh, this is just a broke college student. I wanted them to actually think of me as already the manager. So when Corey started giving me more responsibilities, I knew I had to like dress the part of it. Yeah, it was definitely weird at first, but if you know me, I love to buy clothes and I like to put on outfits. So it honestly was kind of fun for me to step into that role. And I kind of dressed for the part that I wanted. And, you chase the skills and not the title. And that's really what I did first with, appearance and then with, going and getting coaching. And that's how I really kind of juggled both and easily transitioned into that, as I had really good examples of what I wanted to be. And, first step is, just dressing the part, asking and gaining those skills, and then applying, what you learned.
Yeah, yeah, no, and obviously, so you did some serving, right? And you're in the retail world just like we are with an energy client of ours, right? And so, tell me about actually before I get there, describe yourself in one word.
Oh yeah, so the word
I knew I asked you about this. I'm going to ask you about how do you describe Monica in one word?
How I would describe myself is probably passionate. I'm very passionate about, my future. I think about that a lot of the time. There's a phrase that Corey says all the time. He has a healthy amount of anxiety about the future. And I feel like it very resonates with me. I'm very passionate about my future, other people's future. I just love seeing people win. And when they stick to a goal and they achieve that goal, it almost felt like I also achieved that goal. Passionate to me means like giving my all, putting my whole heart into something. And I do that with each and every single person that, comes to my office and tells me what they want, that I now want that as well. It's a strength and it is also a weakness as well, I like to say, because I get really passionate and I get really let down. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I did my part. I was passionate about what they wanted, and if they,
Sure.
achieved that, great. If I could be a part of that, even better. But at the end of the day, I'm more so passionate about what I can control, and I've learned that over time to, pick and choose what I can and cannot be overly, passionate about.
Yeah, yeah. I remember being a young entrepreneur, right? I started my business similar age in early 20s and learned this model, right? And I was taught just like you were taught. And I remember, being like, there's someone I had that I was mentoring and coaching, and we became buddies for a period of time. And they just came in and worked together, right? We just kind of came in and worked. And after college, I was looking for a little friend group anyways, because all my buddies were in Penn State and I was in New Jersey. And I remember randomly, you had a couple tough days, and when people are not, their goals kind of aren't that big. Sometimes they quit on themselves, and sometimes unfortunately they give up. Right? That's just part of life, and college and everything, right? And I remember when that happened, and I remember before he left, I was like, we had a beer that night, and we said we were going all the way together.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm not going all the way. I was like, all right, see you later. Yeah, peace out. So I am, so yeah.
Yeah, emotional
kind of
people make emotional decisions, right? I
Yeah.
learned that the hard way. So I try not to be that emotional person. Of course, still human, right? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to be passionate about what I know I can control, and still continue to be passionate about what I can't until I'm given a reason to not be anymore.
Yeah. So tell me this: who do you feel is like the most influential person you come across so far in your life?
Yeah, you asked, you gave me these questions, and I couldn't really think of one singular person, so I really have two. It'd be my parents. I think I had to choose both of them because they both taught me extremely different things. Both of my parents couldn't be more opposites of each other, which is great. It makes me very well-rounded. But my dad, starting off, my dad taught me how to be resilient and really fight for what I care about and teach me to never give up. If you guys don't know, my dad is a really passionate bike rider. He professionally raced when he was in his 20s, and he kind of carried that in as a hobby throughout, his adult life. Back in 2020, he was in a really serious car accident where somebody actually hit him while he was on his bicycle, which was extremely emotional for our family. He was actually paralyzed from the jaw down for about a week because due to COVID restrictions, they weren't able to get enough people in the room. You can only have, I think, up to 5 people in a room at the time, and he needed 10 people to be in the room for the surgery. So we had to wait an entire week before he could actually, have that surgery done. But, after surgery, here we are in 2023, and was walking, he was talking on his own. If you talk to him right now, you would have no idea that literally anything so traumatic had ever happened to him. And for a while there, I'm like, am I more scarred than he is from this situation? He's just like, he bounced back so quickly. And just to have that mindset that nothing's going to get him down. He didn't choose to just give up and be depressed. He went to his physical therapy every single day so he could walk again. Just seeing somebody like, especially he was in his 50s at this point too. Like he had every reason to give up, but seeing him continue to push forward, and I was like, the issues I go through don't even compare to not being able to walk, right?
Perspective, huh?
Right, for sure. And so
it's like that law of relativity. Things aren't, good or bad until you compare it to something. It's
for sure.
Wow.
Seeing my dad go through that, it taught me like I have the same blood. Like I can be just as resilient as him as well. And then my mother was
awesome.
The other person within that as well. She taught me to be caring and empathetic. And I think you kind of need both of those within your life as well. If you ever meet my mother, she is definitely who I get my personality from. She is warm and caring and bubbly and happy, always cracking jokes, the biggest comedian I know. And then also just, she's everybody's mom. If anybody needs her, she's always there. If you come over for dinner, she cooks you a feast. She'll figure out what your favorite food is and she'll make it for you. So I feel like I needed both of those people.
Dinner at your place tonight, at her place tonight, huh?
Heck yeah. If you like cheesecake, she's got the best recipe for cheesecake, but she will not give it to you.
Well, you know I have a sweet tooth, yes. So you shouldn't have said that.
You're always welcome.
All right, so that's awesome. Wow, what an incredible story about your dad, right? Oh, I had no idea. You never mentioned that. That's the first time I've heard of it. So
He doesn't want people to feel sorry for him, but I tell his story all the time. He's like, you gotta stop telling people that.
Yeah, well, and I get it. So okay, so you started in business. You started in retail sales. You have a little bit of experience in serving, and I'm sure groups in college and different organizations and things. What was it like in sales early in your career? Did you suck like I did, or what?
Early on,
You're probably good.
Pretty good, yeah. I
knew
wasn't amazing or anything, but I was just really excited to be working again. Like a lot of people, after COVID, I was laid off for a few months and didn't have anybody to talk to for like the longest time except for my cats. So for me, getting into the field was really exciting and new. I really didn't know my pitch barely at all, didn't know any of my objections, but I was just really happy to be there. So I feel like people were naturally drawn to that. So my first week, I did awesome. My second week, the excitement starts to die down. So I learned
the honeymoon period wears off. Yeah,
I learned that I really had to really get good at my objections. At this point, I knew my pitch, but I really had to learn the systems and how it worked. If you're coasting off of charisma, it doesn't last very long, right? That kind of dies down. You actually have to learn your objections. You have to learn your pitch, the systems, and also how to work with a lot of different types of people. I found that I was really good at working with people around my same age, but when it came to an older crowd, I didn't really know what to talk to them about, which is honestly the easiest thing for me now. It's so funny. Starting out, it was so scary, but just learning people like talking about themselves. They like talking about their grandchildren, what they're interested in. So what I learned really early on is you can't coast off of charisma, and you want to win people over by getting them to like you. And a surefire way to do that is have them just talk to you about their lives.
Yeah. People, to your point, people love talking about themselves. Mm-hmm. And if you just kind of poke the right area, you touch on maybe a sport they like, you touch on family or maybe even their occupation.
For sure.
It depends. They go, and especially kids, right?
Oh yeah.
I do it myself. I'll tell you about my kids all day long. So I'm new in sales, right? Let's say at my first week, second week, if Monica is here working me and you had one or two vital tips to be great in sales, what's Monica's tip for them, for that crowd?
Yeah, I think the best advice I can give is just be a student. Be smart enough to know that you don't know everything yet, even if you have had, previous sales experience, very different, within a retail setting, right? So just being open to learning everything and anything, knowing that you're a blank slate and that take all the advice that you can get at this point, especially if you're new within sales.
Love it. So you get down the sales, and then you start, getting comfortable with different personality types and objections and closing. You get promoted to more of a role of leadership, I'm sure, and you start to learn how to mentor and manage and, take on some responsibilities. Any big challenges of that phase of your career where you started to, being responsible for yourself is one thing, and then learning how to be responsible for everyone else or anyone else is not the easiest thing, right? So any big challenges there?
Yeah, for me, when I first started training and being a leader, it was really learning how to not be so selfish with my own enrollments. I kind of got addicted to, getting sales and kind of being the top dog. And then when I started, getting training responsibilities, I had to focus more so on someone else than myself. And that was kind of a hurdle for me because for so long I was, just doing sales on my own. Then now, worrying about somebody else's sales seemed like this huge, thing that I had to overcome. When in reality, all I had to do was really, jump in and help if they needed me, not be so selfish with my time and, just take the little extra time to explain the whys. I think really helped me go from, being an okay trainer. As long as you're a good example, you'll be an okay trainer. But how you go from being okay to being great is really just explaining the whys. Why is this important? Why do we do it this way? Teaching people how to read their numbers, teaching them the importance of, sticking to what's in the packet and the 4 phases and whatnot. It's not good enough to just go out with somebody, do your own thing. It's really important to also explain why we do things the way that we do and help them so that they can get, consistent on their own.
Love it. Love it. So I'm going to speed it up and talk about entrepreneurship, right? So obviously some incredible tips for anyone that's watching the channel as far as leadership and as far as sales. So you're an entrepreneur. You're obviously, like I said, 23, and so you're running your own business, right? So you're in charge of your financial side of the business. You're in charge of hiring people. You're in charge of making daily decisions, and I remember being in my 20s, like that's a lot, right? And now, and to be fair, you've been in business a year. You have well over $100,000 saved in your corporate account, and on top of paying yourself, on top of doing on paying a bit, like that's incredible, right? Your business did just under $1 million last year in revenue, and I'm sure you have friends that are 25 that are still serving. Yeah. Right, that are still like going out and partying on a Wednesday night or on a Friday night, and they're just kind of still living that life. Like, how do you handle all that? Like, how cool is that?
I think one thing that helps me handle it is just being really proud of where I came from. Right, if you talk to that same girl in October 2020, or even just like the month before that, if I told her today you're gonna have $100K in your bank account, and then on top of that an extra, like 20K in personal savings as well, I would be like, you're kidding, you're joking, right? So I think that's what helps me to push harder. And then hopefully future Monica is going to say to this Monica, keep pushing, you're not even close to where you're going to end up being. So I think one thing that helps me, maintain a good attitude and also, keep pushing to do better is just knowing how far I've come just from 2-3 years ago almost. I'm in a completely different situation just because I didn't worry about, the friends who were going out and partying and still serving and not doing the right things. All I did that was for about a year, focus on my career and on myself for about a year. And now I am set up for a career for the rest of my life that is completely dependent upon me. I don't have to worry about a company doing budget cuts and I get laid off, right? I control it, right? I get to control who I work with every day. I get to control my income. If I work really hard one week, I can make as much money as I want or need. And if I were to have told past Monica that, she would have laughed at me. So hopefully future Monica is laughing at present Monica about the dumb stuff that I worry about now. But that's what keeps me going, is knowing how far that I've come and just betting on myself. Because at the end of the day, the only person that I can rely on is, me and my work ethic.
Yeah, super cool. What in the sales side of things, what was your biggest week that you had in the sales?
Oh, biggest week is when I did, it's funny, I did like 69 sales in 1 week. That was a big week for me. Also, I want to bump that up for sure, but that was a Black Friday week, so we're on retail
Sure.
sales. So I think I did 27 apps in 1 day, so that was killer. That was my
Nice, nice. And how and at the end of that week, what was that commission wise, or being a rep?
Oh gosh, it's hard to remember, but I think it was well over $3,000 for
Nice.
1 week. That was pretty good, and that all went to my college debt that I had back then. So it helped
And
out
that's
a lot.
and to your point, right? So being in this industry, in this career, do you mind me asking how much debt you had from college?
30,000, and
And
that's pretty much down now to I think I only owe about 8,000 left. I need to go back and check, but I've been continuously like paying that off. I paid off my car. Also, just within being in the business, I moved out of my parents' house at 22, 23. I bought a car within my first month of the business because I just now was starting to make money. Performance-based jobs for me, it was like addictive. I was like, how much money can I make this week, right? So I was just like pushing myself that extra mile. My car's completely paid off, pretty much debt-free with college and everything. So yeah, I was 30K in debt, but I'll let you know, I also always worked full time throughout school, so it wasn't any different when I started this business. Like before I even had this job, I was already working full time and full time school because
yeah.
my parents, again, they taught me that money was earned, not gained. So I didn't really have anybody helping me pay for college. So I had to pay all of it out of pocket, which helped me end with less debt to begin with. So I always kind of had the money
So
management.
you worked and went to school, and you paid for your own schooling. Wow, good for you. I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
that. That's
All,
awesome.
all 5 years because I was a 5 year.
Nice.
Freshman year
Yeah.
was kind of a joke. Nobody knows what
Hey.
they want to do at 18, right? So I changed my major like 3 times my freshman year until I finally
So
found.
and to be Monica, to be fair, we've talked a little bit, hung out a little bit. That younger Monica liked to have a good time.
Oh yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah.
I'm still fun, Monica, when I have a chance to be fun, Monica.
Yeah. So 100%, 100%. But the younger, and listen, we've all went through that stage of I kind of tell people when there's two things I like to tell people young in their careers, like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Right. So when someone's ready to get into their career and really get focused and everything else, it's amazing what happens to people around you and how they come in to kind of help you. And then the other thing is, when people again, and just out of college and everything else, it's when your days become more important than your nights, then you're going to start thinking about your career more, and you're going to start doing better. And my hope is for people in our industry that they don't screw themselves up so much by going out too much that messes up their career. Right. That's the part. Right? As looking back, I'm like, if they could only get an ounce of the what it's like to be in complete control of your life and have financial freedom, I wish they could get a taste of it early so they'd figure out how to be more mature. But that was me too. I had to mature. That was the number one thing I had to do, as I had
For
to
sure.
mature.
I think it's a good transition, coming from like college life into this job as well, because it's like other young, like-minded people, and then there's also team nights where it's one excuse to like blow off some steam with your team members. So I feel like for me it was like an easy transition because it was instead of hanging out with my broke college friends, I was now hanging out with other entrepreneurs who were making a ton of money, but also knew how to party. So it's
Yeah,
a transition.
yeah, we've had some good times over the last few years. I know that. So tell me, life experience, business experience, any like thoughts in general for someone who wants to be the next Monica. They're interested, they're excited, they're committed to their own goals. They're on this call on the YouTube channel, maybe watching, and they want to make some moves. And I'll preface it with this. I was getting my hair cut a few days ago from a guy around the corner, and it was kind of funny. I was, talking to him, and he goes, "Hey, you're obviously I talked to you before about entrepreneurship," and he's the owner of the salon. And he says to me, I tell him a little bit about how I coach people and coach entrepreneurs, etc. And he said, so what do you do for you? Like, what do you do to get better? And I said, hey, there's a couple, YouTube channels and things. And I pull up my YouTube channel. I'm like, hey, you should subscribe to this one. This is a pretty good one. I'm a little I'm a little biased. And he goes, I've seen this guy somewhere. Yeah, I will. And I'm like, that's me. He goes, and he looked down, he goes, oh shit, it is? It is you. And he says to me, he goes, you really think I should get better? And I looked at him and I said, well, I just know this. I don't know a lot about your industry. I see you in here, and I saw him fire someone one day for being late. One of his hairstylists. He's like, you've been late too many times, you're out. And I gained a lot of respect for him that day because it told me he had standards. And anyone who has standards in their business and in their life, I'm okay hanging out with those people because that means that they care about how they show up and what they do, right? And so if Monica were to tell someone, hey, on this call or on this channel they watch, and I want to be in control, I want to move up, I want to gain experience, I want to get better at what I'm doing, what type of advice would Monica give them? How do they do it?
Yeah, I think one thing is just getting really clear on what a life well lived looks like to you. So for everybody, that's very different. Some women, want to be stay-at-home moms and, take care of their children, and that is a life well lived for them. For me, that wasn't a path that I wanted to take. I've always been very independent from a very young age, so I saw my manager, and other managers living a life that I wanted to live. I want freedom of time, and I also want freedom of, financial freedom too as well. So it wasn't for me an if. It was always an and. So it's not like, oh, well, if I'm a mother, I can't be a business owner. It's like, I can be both. I can add both of those in. And for me, this career path was just the easiest way for me to get to that position, right? I definitely wouldn't want to be a doctor. I don't trust myself with that whatsoever. And I don't want to be a lawyer, right? Because lawyers, it's every day, night, whatever, you're on call. This seemed like the easiest path for me to get a life that I wanted. So anyone who is, wanting, freedom of time and financial freedom as well, I'd say just get really serious about what a life well lived looks like for you, and then find the easiest path for that for you. And for me, I was, good at the job. I was serious. I had good mentorship. I think that also helps as well, is like getting advice from someone who has something that you want. I feel too often, especially, growing up, I would always get advice from people who weren't qualified to give it. Usually the loudest people in the room are the ones, that don't know what they're talking about half of the time. So my single friends were giving me relationship advice, so I was always single. My broke friends were giving me financial advice, so I was always broke. My friend that was jumping from job to job, never held down a stable career, was always the one to give me career advice. So anyone who's looking to really better themselves, ask yourself, who am I going to for advice before you take their advice? And then also, just getting really serious about what kind of future you want is going to help you get there quicker.
Awesome. Yeah, the quote or the saying I have is, don't seek comfort from people, or don't seek counsel from people that you seek comfort from, right? So often we go to people that, their family or people that are, love and support us, but may not ultimately have the experience in what you're trying to learn and what you're trying to do. So awesome. Well, I know you have a very busy day today. Monica, I just want to say thank you so much. Any final thoughts as we kind of wrap up today? And thank you for jumping on and being our guinea pig on our new platform and our new software. And I'm excited to see how this comes out.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for, having me on. I'm happy to be the guinea pig